In this video, I'm going to show you how psionic abilities actually work, because if you understand the underlying principles behind them, it will make your practice much more effective, and you can actually see results in your training that you just don't get when you don't understand what is really going on. So first of all, I think there's some confusion regarding what PSI abilities are. In general, they refer to any kind of extrasensory or paranormal power like telekinesis, telepathy, precognition, clairvoyance, psychokinesis, and so on. And I believe that these powers come from a place that many people would consider to be outside of this reality. However, I tend to think of it as part of our own individual realities that we have inside of us at all times. In fact, I think everything in the universe comes from the same place. It's all connected. And these powers are just different ways of interacting with that fundamental source of creation. So if all of these powers come from the same source, and everything else in the universe also comes from that same source, then the only thing separating you from manifesting these powers is your belief system and your ability to interact with that source. Speaking of which, in my opinion, the most important tool for PSI development is not a crystal, a tarot card, a pendulums, or anything else. It's your mind. With enough training, you can learn to use your mind to do incredible things. You could bend spoons with your mind or influence other people's thoughts. But in order to reach that point where you can wield your mind as a tool, you need to be able to control it and focus it. Because without focus, your mental energy will disperse and become diluted. There's a lot of talk about having an attention deficit in today's society, and I think it's largely due to the stimulation that we're constantly bombarded with from media and technology. That constant stimulation causes your brain to lose its ability to stay focused on one thing at a time. Because when you're watching TV or on social media, your brain is constantly being stimulated by new information every few seconds, so it gets used to rapidly switching between different mental states. And as a result, it becomes more difficult to sit still and focus on one thing for an extended period of time. This also makes it harder to develop psychic abilities because many of them require a high degree of concentration and focus. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that everyone diagnosed with ADHD is distracted or unable to focus. What I am saying is that it can be more challenging for them to maintain a high level of concentration when compared to someone who does not have ADHD. Now, there are ways around this. There are certain medications that can help people with ADHD focus better. There are also techniques such as meditation and neuro-linguistic programming that can help anyone improve their focus. Regardless of whether or not you struggle with maintaining your focus, if you want to develop your PSI abilities, you must train your mind to stay concentrated. Okay? Now let's get back to the video. Another principle that I think is very important when it comes to PSI abilities is the idea that they are based on subtle energies. We know that everything in the universe is made up of energy, even the physical matter that we are accustomed to seeing. Everything is composed of atoms which are vibrating masses of energy. On a higher vibrational level, there are forces that manifest themselves through subatomic particles and quantum phenomena. These forces are responsible for creating the matter and energy that we observe in the universe. But just because something is invisible to our physical eyes, that doesn't mean that it isn't real or powerful. We know that emotions are a form of energy as well, and they can be powerful motivators that drive our actions and shape our reality. For example, when you're feeling depressed, it might feel like a heavy weight is bringing you down and making it difficult to move forward. On the other hand, when you're feeling inspired or excited, it can feel like you have wings and are ready to take off and achieve great things. Emotions are literally energy in motion, and they have a significant impact on our lives. If we can harness the power of our emotions and direct them towards a specific goal, then we can channel our mental energy into the world around us and manifest our desires. But it's not just about positive emotions. Even negative emotions can be powerful sources of energy. When someone is consumed with hatred or rage, it can be a powerful force that drives them to do terrible things. If we can learn to control these negative emotions and redirect them in a healthy way, then we can tap into a vast source of power that has been at the root of many psi abilities throughout history. You see, emotions and energy are closely related concepts that play a significant role in shaping our reality. By understanding and harnessing the power of emotions and energy, we can unlock the potential of our minds and bring about positive change in our lives. The next principle I want to discuss is the connection between consciousness and reality. Some people believe that our consciousness creates our reality. In other words, what we think and believe shapes our experiences and the world around us. I agree with this idea to some extent, but I also believe that there is something beyond our individual consciousness that we are all connected to. When I refer to this, I'm talking about the Akashic Records, which is a term used in various spiritual and esoteric traditions to describe a metaphysical record of all events that have occurred in the universe from the beginning of time until the present moment. The records are said to contain information about everything that has happened, is happening, and will happen. And this includes thoughts, emotions, words, and deeds of every individual. According to this belief, the Akashic Records are a kind of universal library that holds the history of the universe and can be accessed by those who know how to look. In my opinion, the Akashic Records are a manifestation of the collective consciousness of humanity. They represent the sum total of our thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and experiences as a species. By tapping into the Akashic Records, we can access a vast well of knowledge and wisdom that has been accumulated by our ancestors over countless lifetimes. This can help us to gain clarity, insight, and guidance on our life's journey. It's important to note that the concept of the Akashic Records is not widely accepted within the scientific community and is often viewed as a pseudoscientific or mystical belief. However, I personally find it to be a helpful and inspiring concept that reminds me of the interconnectedness of all things and the importance of living in harmony with the universe. All right. Now I want to discuss the relationship between innate talent and practice when it comes to PSI development. It's possible that some people are born with a greater aptitude for psi abilities than others. Just like some people are born with a natural talent for music or art, they may also have a natural ability to perceive and manipulate subtle energies. However, I believe that this natural ability is not the most important factor when it comes to developing SI abilities. Instead, I think that practice and dedication are much more important. Just like you wouldn't expect to become a virtuoso musician or artist without practicing your craft, you can't expect to develop strong psi abilities without putting in the time and effort to practice. There are many people who were born with a natural aptitude for psi abilities, but they never develop them because they don't practice. On the other hand, there are people who were not born with a natural aptitude for these abilities, but they develop them anyway through practice and sheer determination. So if you want to develop PSI abilities, don't worry about whether or not you were born with a natural ability. Instead, focus on practicing and honing your skills. Overall, I believe that PSI abilities are real and they are a part of the universe. However, I also believe that they are often misunderstood and underutilized. Many people dismiss psi abilities as mere pseudoscience or fantasy, but I think that they deserve our attention and respect. Psi abilities are a fascinating and mysterious aspect of human experience that we are only beginning to understand. So keep an open mind and don't be afraid to explore these abilities for yourself. You never know what you might discover. Thank you for watching and remember to subscribe if you haven't already.